everyone. How you guys doing? Welcome to the September monthly webinar. I'll be your host on today, Phillip Graves, walking you guys through everything and all things LADOTD construction, as well as alongside me, I'll have Les Fletcher of E-Construction, as well as some other folks that might join us from E-Construction. As we always do, we like to start off with any burning questions or any kind of scenarios that you guys want to present. This is normally our roundtable kind of discussion that we start off with. So if anybody brought any kind of questions or anything that they wanted to mention or get any kind of feedback on before we kind of dive into our demonstration segment part of the monthly webinar, feel free. We are here to answer those questions. It could pertain to anything and everything e-construction. That can be HeadLight fill book, that could be materials, that could be sample plan, that could be anything that you guys have discovered might need some attention in regards to what you're experiencing in the field. So I'll open it up. Any questions out there? I guess I'm gonna have to start doing like a little roll call. I'm just going down the line. Anybody from District 2 have anything that they would like to bring to the table? I see Kevin over there smiling. He's on there. Usually he has something for us. Anybody in District 3 has anything? I guess I'll start off with this one. Anybody experience with the heat overheating of their iPads as of late? Nobody? I guess Les, it's only me and you in Baton Rouge that are experiencing 100+ degree heat.
Well, Kevin's shaking his head, so I guess he's just wasn't talking.
No, me and my staff, we run into that a couple of times.
Gotcha. What I've noticed is if you ever have any issues with overheating iPads or something like that, just one useful thing that I used is that in between time, if you stick your iPad in like a towel or something like that to kind of keep it from overheating, that will help out. But we are looking for some solutions in regards to getting you guys some cases that might help out with that eventually. I don't think we've had any devices actually fall in hot mixes or that major damage from like water or anything like that. So we are looking at something that does affect the majority of the state, and that's the heat condition. So we are looking for some cases down the line to possibly put in the rotation that'll help out with that.
I'll give some tips that I remember when I used to be in the field is that when you have your iPad, if this glass is up towards the sun for any amount of time, it will overheat. So unless you're taking a picture or something like that, you tuck it under your arm, totally fine.
Yeah.
As long as that heat can't get to that glass, that's the main problem.
Yes, because that does reset. You got to wait pretty much like 10 minutes before it actually cools down to temp. And that's very hard to do if you're outside in the elements to be able to bring that thing back down to temp.
It does give you an excuse to go sit in the air conditioner in the truck, though. So
I'm pretty sure most people are probably going to elect for that, right? To sit inside the truck in the cool air. So yeah, it definitely gives you a reason.
And actually, guys, I will bring something up this morning. We did have working on closing out a bunch of projects at our office, and one of them was a simple asphalt mill and overlay. We were able to use HeadLight sampling plan, to set everything up, and we actually generated the ATM report inside of HeadLight for that project. The only thing, which the report looks fantastic, the only thing with those reports is that there's no place for the project engineer's name to show up. It shows up the document author and also the district lab engineer when they go in and approve it, and also the district area engineer. But however, there's no place where the project engineer's name is showing up.
Gotcha. And Kevin, we were referring to the ATM, right?
Yes.
Okay. And could you kind of explain the importance of why that project engineer should be signing off just as well? And I just wanted for context for everybody that's on the call.
Right, because what it is that before it goes to the lab engineer for audit, like audit of the materials,
Mhm.
it is also the project engineer affirming that whatever we're turning in right there is totally accurate and correct to the best of our knowledge.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I'll work with the team to make sure that we include that. So right now you're saying that there's only a spot for the area engineer and the lab engineer, but there's not a spot for the project engineer who needs to sign off on that, because in those particular cases, there could be an instance where a Tech 4, Tech 5, so forth, creates that ATM, but you may not be aware of it if they don't notify you or if you don't have to sign off on it.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I think in the EDSM also too, I think it is also listed in there that the project engineer is supposed to be the first one signing off on it. Yeah, as a matter of fact, there you go, Les. So see at the
Yep.
top, yeah, you got the document author, but there's no place for the project engineer.
So Philip, what he's saying is this, and this is a great catch, Kevin, because I never noticed this before. This should not say area engineer. This should actually say
Project.
project. Well, I don't know. I think the area engineer does have to sign off on it.
Yes.
So maybe that just needs an additional project engineer, even though sometimes that might not be the document author. Like the Tech 7 might actually be the
Mhm.
one doing the 2059 ATM, and they would be the one that creates the document, but the PE does need a place to sign it. So probably in between district laboratory engineer and area engineer, there should be a PE
Okay.
signature. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Kevin. That's great.
Sure. Not a problem.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. This is exactly what this roundtable is for, to point out some of those things that we need to correct, or some of those things that we're having issues on that we can fix. We'll jump all over that one and start the process to get that corrected for you, Kevin. Any other things that are top of the mind, or that anybody wants to mention? Amber, you got something for me? Who else do we
No,
have?
sir.
That all righty. Amanda, what about from the lab's perspective? Amanda Garcia, do you have anything that you've noticed or anything like that that we can kind of put eyes on, or begin to look into from your group's perspective? Must still be on mute. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, I guess we can kind of jump into our demonstration segment of the monthly webinar. On today, we have 3 demonstrations that we're going to actually offer to you guys, okay? The first one will actually be by me from the HeadLight team, where I'll go over how you guys can add or remove users from a project, as well as I'm going to show you guys that how also you can select which projects you want to display on your iPad. Okay, I know this has been one in the making, where a lot of people have said, well, Phil, how do I eliminate such long login times or upload times for my projects? And that's normally because you have so many projects that it's trying to pull in. Okay, where there's a way where you can select which projects you are currently working on and not have to worry about older projects that you might have had access to, or projects that are temporarily suspended or something like that, and you guys are not working on them. It will reduce the amount of time that it takes to log in. So I'm actually going to show you guys how to do that from the web on today. Okay. Then we have from the e-construction group, where they're going to go into showing you guys a few tips as well as demonstrations as well, where they're going to go over how to select the correct concrete plant. They're also going to show you guys another demonstration, which is, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Les, where you guys are going to show them how to use the location sequence number effectively, and also what it actually applies to. So those are going to be the 3 demonstrations on today. Normally we give you guys 2, but you got a bonus one thrown in there as well. Okay.
I actually have 2 more that I didn't list in the newsletter that just came up.
So it's 5. It's 5 on today. All right. So guys, buckle up your seats. It's going to be a nice little ride on today where you guys are getting a lot of information. Just remember, if you guys have to step away or anything through these demonstrations, that you can always go back and watch them later on YouTube. We will upload this recording as well. But if you have your iPads, I would tell you to grab them now because you probably want to walk through these things step by step to get a little bit more familiarized with the demonstrations that we have, okay? So I'll go ahead and start on my end, Les, if you don't mind me jumping out and showing these gentlemen and ladies on how they are able to add users or remove users from a project. And then I'll also show them how they can select the specific projects that they want to have loaded up into their iPads on a daily basis if they're not using those other projects. All right, let me share my screen. All right, 1 second. All righty, can everybody see my screen? Awesome. So the first thing is if you guys are not familiar, we do have a section inside of our software called customers.headlight.com, okay? It will allow for you guys to be able to go in there, adjust or add, remove users from a particular project. It'll also allow you to adjust the projects that you have access to as well. This mainly applies to my folks who are office staff or office managers who have this ability, okay? When it comes down to field personnel, you probably won't be able to adjust any of your others in the unit, but you will be able to adjust your projects themselves if you need to delete a project or if there's something that you need to add that you already have access to. So the first thing that you would notice is your user credentials are going to be the same for the customers.headlight.com URL. So I'll go in there, and what I'm going to do is, go ahead and log in. First thing you'll notice that you'll see all of the users that you have available to you. For me, I'm going to have access to everybody under the LADOTD umbrella that I can go in from a user standpoint or a customer standpoint, okay? Now I can go in here and be able to select specific users that fall under my ability, and then I can adjust what projects they have access to, as well as I can adjust any of their information that I need to change, like their phone number, email address, or so forth, okay? Now, this is one aspect for it. This is really for your Tech 7s and above. This is for mostly office staff, managerial, who might go in there and need to access their users and adjust what their users have access to. Now, I'm going to go over here in the top right corner, if you guys can see where there's that little person, and you'll see where it has projects, okay? When it comes down to projects, this is pretty much available to everybody who has access to HeadLight. They can go to projects.headlight.com specifically, but they can also come in here and be able to adjust who all has access to a specific project. So for example, I'm going to go to training 2.0, search for that project. Automatically, when you guys go to projects.headlight.com, you will see a list of projects that you already have access to. Being that I am a super user in the phrase, I have access to all projects, so it makes it a little bit harder for me to have to search for which projects. So when I go in here, you'll see all of the project details. Most of this information will not allow you guys to change it, but you'll be able to see all of the project details as well as the home base of that project. The next thing that you guys are going to see is the membership, okay? This is where you're going to be able to select who has access to what projects. and, you know, who do you need to add, who you would like to remove from that project. As you can see right now, the whole state has access to the Training 2.0 project. If there was anybody new that I needed to add who didn't have access, I would be able to go down this list and be able to add that person to the project. As well as I have the option off to the right to be able to remove that person from the project, okay? This is how you add and remove users from the project. Secondly, you guys will be able to see some other details that I'm not going to get into, but mainly the focus is adding or removing a user from the project. You can do that from two ways. You can go to customers.headlight.com, as well as you can go from projects.headlight.com. Just a rule of thumb for those who are techs, you might want to focus on projects.headlight.com if you need to add or remove a user from a project. From manager standpoint, it's probably going to be best if you go from projects, but you also have the ability to go to customers.headlight.com as well. So I just wanted to throw that out to you guys on how you'll be able to do that. You can go through any project. Say, for example, I'm going to go to this project right here, which I know they don't have a lot of members in there. If I wanted to right now, I would be able to go in here and add Les to this project. Les, is this the correct one, or do you have another user? I'm going to remove it anyway. But
that's my old one. Yeah, you can remove it.
Yes. So as you can see, I selected Les's name. I'm able to then put him into that project under membership. And then if he's not needed on that project, I can just easily remove him. So I wanted to show you that. We've had a few people ask that question on how they remove that. One piece, how to add and remove. But one piece that I didn't mention is a lot of times for my project engineers, my Tech 7s, you guys request for certain projects to be imported inside of HeadLight. It is your job after that project has been imported and you receive that email stating that it is available, that the project is now imported and that you are assigned to that project, for you to go in there and add your specific personnel that you want to have access on that project, okay? When you guys get that information, you're supposed to go inside of here in projects.headlight.com, go under that membership and add those specific users to the project, okay? Another thing that I would say also that's very important that you do is make sure you add the area engineer, make sure you add the lab folks as well as you start to get that group in who need access to that project, because everything aligns from field book goes over into materials, okay? So those folks at the lab need access to those projects and materials before you start sampling and stuff like that. So I just want to throw that out there. That's very important because I know a lot, you know, early on we were just working in field book where you would add those guys from your specific unit, guys or girls, from your specific unit, but it's very important that you add the lab folks as well as the area engineers. All right. So now we want to move on to, okay, we understand how to add people. We understand how to add projects to a specific user. And then you say, well, Phil, what happens when we have too many projects showing up? It's a whole lot of information that's out there and it's taking forever for it to load up because I have 30 plus projects under my account. How do I select which projects I want to see and what projects I don't want to see, okay? So hopefully you guys are taking down these URLs because I'm about to throw another one at you. So I'll go ahead and log out of this one. When it comes down to what projects you want to see inside of your iPad or iOS system, you would need to go to profile.headlight.com to be able to access that, okay? So remember, it's profile.headlight.com in order for you to select which projects you want to see and what projects you don't want to see on your particular iPad. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. What you'll notice is when you log in, that your information is going to pop up. It's going to give you your name, your last name, your login ID, as well as your email address, also your title. If you see any of this information that needs to be changed or needs to be updated, you do have the ability to change your email, your title, any of that information. Your login ID is going to be blocked out. It doesn't allow you to change that. The reason being is because we have integration and sync, and we need that information to transfer appropriately. So we don't allow you to change that. If you ever need to change your login ID, feel free to reach out to our support team and we can assist you with that. Next thing is you also can reset your password right here as well. Okay, I know a lot of people have tried using the forgot password login and they had some trouble. This is a good way to reset it that we know works 100% of the time. Feel free to drop it in here and you'll be able to change it. Now we get to the good stuff. Okay, this is a list of all of the projects I have access to. You'll notice that some of them are toggled on and off. This is where you will be able to adjust the projects that you see inside of your iPad, okay? So you'll notice that I've turned off a good bit of them, but this is where you will come in. If those projects are no longer being worked on, those projects are complete or anything like that, you can still have them inside of your account, but you don't need to see them when you upload. I mean, when you actually go inside of your iPad, you can toggle them off and on. So what I want to show you guys is, let's see, I'm going to narrow it down only to one project, and then I'm going to show you guys how it looks inside of the iPad, okay? So I'm going to take off all of these and only keep the 2.0 project. So after I select the ones that I don't need, and I only want the LADOTD Training 2.0 project, I'll then say save projects to sync. And I should get a confirmation projects to sync saved. That lets me know everything is done and complete on my end. And now what I'm going to do is actually log in on my iPad to show you guys that I only have one project available. Okay. So let me stop sharing and then I'm going to share on my iPad. Give it 1 second to actually pop over. All right. Does everybody see my screen? Awesome. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and log in. You see that it starts the authentication load manifest, and it should load up very, very quickly, being that I only have one project that I've selected to upload. You see how quickly it uploads? A lot of times when you guys have 20 or 30 plus more projects that are showing up on your account, it takes a while before it's actually able to log in. Now, just to double check for you guys to be able to see that I only have one project, I'll go ahead and tap right on LADOTD Training 2.0, and you'll notice that only one project is actually displaying, okay? So that's the only project that I have now that I have access to. It makes it a lot easier, especially if you're in an area where you're struggling with internet connection or anything like that. The more projects you have, the longer it takes for it to load, and sometimes it can time out. So it's very important if you are in a very rural area that you go in and adjust the projects that you want to see or that you have access to while you're working on that project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and log out, and then I'm going to go through this one more time. I know we have a lot to cover on today, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing on this side, and then I'm going to go back to sharing on my side. I still have my profile up, and what I want to do now is I'm going to actually select multiple projects to actually display so you guys can be able to see that it takes a little bit longer when I have multiple projects out there. So I'm going to select just a few, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and save projects to sync. Now that that information is saved, I can then go back over to my iPad. Yeah. Give it just a second to actually connect. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in again and show you that all of those projects are pulling over. All right. So this time it's going to take a little bit longer than it did the first time, just because now I have a few more projects that need to load up and it needs to pull that data. So you'll see that it goes through this process for each project that I added, which takes a little time. So for you guys, it's much easier to just go quickly online to profile.headlight.com and adjust those really quickly before you actually go out in the field where you only have one project to load. It will quickly be able to load. But now you see that the more projects I add, the more time it takes getting set up. And this could be an issue when in the field. So now what I'll do is, now that I have it loaded up, I'll tap right up there and you'll see that all of the projects that I selected are now showing for me to be able to go through each individual project if I need to, okay? So I just wanted to show that to you guys. I know we field a lot of questions in regards to being able to select which projects I want to load, as well as how do I add or remove somebody who is either no longer with the unit, no longer needs access to a project. So hopefully that was helpful. Like I said before, if you weren't able to catch it or if your guys are not in the office to be able to view this information, we will have it saved and it will be on the YouTube page. So thank you guys for your time. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Les in eConstruction where they can go through their demonstrations.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. That was very detailed and much needed. So I don't want anyone to be scared. I do have 4 things to talk about this morning, but they're all very short. So we will make this quick. Let me share my screen. Okay. So something that recently came in was dealing with how to select plants or how to get the correct plant selected when you're creating a sample. I want everyone to see my screen. I just want to make sure. Okay, we're good. So I'm going to create a new sample here. And this is actually a live project, so I'm not going to save the sample, but I want to go through. So when you're doing this is specifically for concrete or asphalt type samples, but really it's really just going to be concrete, I believe. This might be on asphalt. I'm not 100% sure on that, but anyway, I know concrete for sure. So when you are creating a concrete sample, you should skip all this and start at the mix specification. We've said that many times, and this will be a good demonstration of why. So when you start at a mix specification, I'm just going to choose one here. So we got a class A1 structural concrete. And you can see that it entered a producer here for you. And it also has a plant here at the bottom. So it fills in a lot of the information for you, which is one reason you should start there. But I want to make a distinguish between what these mean. So the producer here is kind of like the main plant that produces this mix. But in this case, Sorrento has multiple plants. And so you might not be actually getting the mix from the Baton Rouge plant. You might be getting it from what we call a sub plant somewhere else. And so if that is the case, it is okay that the producer plant says Baton Rouge, since that's the main plant, but you want to come down here and click on the plant tab and then select where you're actually getting the mix design from. And that's really all I'm trying to say here is that this is where, I'm sorry, that little pop-up is just because it says the plant is expired, probably for this particular mix design. It's not that Sorrento is expired. So, and this would, give the documentation you need that you are actually receiving the mix from the Zachary plant, even though the producer here says Baton Rouge. So that's how to distinguish it. Now, what happens is, let me cancel this one and I'll just start a new one. So what I've been noticing and why we've gotten a couple of support cases in on this is inspectors, like most samples, would come in here and choose a material first. So let me find A1. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Structural class A1. And then they want to go in and choose a producer. So let's say I go back, if I can spell it, Sorrento, and I choose that Zachary plant first. So what happens when I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. So if I choose that Zachary Yes. Okay, so if I choose that first, then what's going to happen when I go down here for my mix specification? There's not going to be anything there. What happens is this filters what shows up here. But when you choose this first, it back filters up, which is actually the correct thing that you want. So what happens is inspectors will choose the plant, what the producer that they are actually getting the mix from, and then it kind of messes up the data, like where it's pulling the data from to get your mix specification here. And so that's why we choose mix specification first, and that's just the main thing. Make sure you're telling your inspectors choose mix specification first when you're doing concrete. Okay, pretty simple. Anybody have questions about that? Nope.
I got a question, Les.
All right, go ahead.
So if the mix designs this is assigned to multiple plants, then it would work. Then it should come up, or
So HeadLight now matches LePave. So whatever the mix design is assigned to in LePave would match HeadLight. The change was made several months ago. What happened was a lot of the plants, you could not select that sub plant, right? And so the inspectors were having a hard time actually saying where they were getting mixed from.
okay.
Does that answer your question? But it just matches LePave.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. All right. So no more questions. We'll move on.
Actually, Les, so if I'm understanding right, it sounds like then what was selecting that mix design, that we have what they call, quote, a home office plant, and we got satellite plants around, correct?
Yes. So
Okay.
it's like that company has a main plant, right? And so it's just the way it's all associated in LePave is the way I understand it, right? Is that it's associated to the main plant. And then there are sub plants off of that main, it's usually all the same company, right? Like Barrier has multiple plants, just all of them have multiple plants. And so that's just the way the data filters. Now, once we're HeadLight only, all that might change a little bit. You might not have to do it the same way once that's there, but for now, with the sync through LePave, that's what we're looking at.
I can speak to this list.
Yeah, please.
So asphalt is a 1-to-1. There's basically one plant for the mixes on submittal. On concrete, you have a lot of cases where they have surrounding plants that can also submit the exact same materials with the exact same mixes on. So instead of having a mixes on per each one of those individual plants, we allow them to just submit one from the main plant and list the additional plants that can also submit the same mixes on, so that they're all keyed under the same mix number. Now, I know in Site Manager, you still originally selected the plant as the supplier, but the way that HeadLight set it up, they actually have it now as a main and a sub. So you select the main as the supplier, and then you select the sub as the plant.
Thanks, Patrick.
And that's only for concrete. Asphalt will still be 1-to-1.
Perfect. Even better. Anybody else? Right. So another thing came up a couple of days ago that I had never really thought through before, and it probably doesn't happen often, but we want to get the information out there just in case it does. And
There was something in the chat, Les.
oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see that.
I picked up on it, Kevin. Amanda asked that we move the mixed design selection to the top of the form would solve the problem. We're working on this from two different angles. Hopefully you'll mind me speaking to that, Les, but we're working on this from two different angles. We want to keep it pretty much the same, is why we haven't done that. But on the back end with some of the data, we will get this corrected to whereas it will be able to flow in line. Right now, we just noticed that it's best to select the mixed design first. So this is a temporary fix as opposed to what we want from a long-term standpoint. So hopefully that answers your question, Amanda, is why we haven't pushed that section to the top of the page.
Appreciate that feedback. All right, so now we are looking at location sequence numbers. And most of you are familiar with this. If you enter, you know that if you enter multiple of the same line item. So say here, we're doing some pavement markers, and you had to make 2 entries for the same day, the same line item, right? That you have to come in here and enter a number 1 and a number 2 for that to sync up to site manager correctly. And if you have 30 of them, you would have to name, 1 through 30, right? So I had a situation the other day where the project was, it was actually striping related, but there were multiple contractors working on the same line item. So you had, I think there were either 2 or 3 contractors who were striping at the same time. Must have been a pretty big striping project. And so the inspector actually was having a hard time getting their work items to sync. And so I'm going to add another, maybe 1 or 2 more here to give you an example of what you're supposed to do in this situation. All right, so let me choose the same line item. And we'll just say there's a place quantity here, doesn't really matter. But we had a different contractor who was doing the same work item on the same day. So when this happens, I want to make sure we're not doing this. So you would not come in here and restart your location sequence numbers. And the reason this is a little confusing is because when you're working on contract personnel and equipment, usually you separate the contractors out, right? So you have to have at least 1 contractor personnel type per contractor if there's equipment on the job. Well, work items do not work that way, and they are a little different. So I'm gonna take these off. The key here is the same work item, not contractor. And so we want to make sure when we do this, we're going through here and we're just going down the line and numbering these accordingly, because the way it works in Site Manager, if you look, all your work items get grouped in the same line. And if you were to go to Site Manager and see 2 different contractors, they're all numbered sequentially, no matter which contractor put it in. So pretty simple, but just want to make sure no one's confused about that. If you have multiple line items, even with different contractors, the location sequence number still has to be done this way. And it can get a little confusing because a lot of times you enter your work items, all of what contractor A did, and then so they might be out of order. So you might see a 9001 down here, and then multiple line items in between there, and it might be a little harder to actually go through there and see those. So you might have to actually go in and sort and make sure that you're lining those out so that you can get the location sequence number correct. I did test it and make sure that it worked. It actually took me a little while to figure out what was going on there. But I sent some work items through our test project and was able to successfully get them to sync up. So anything else on location sequence number? Any questions there?
Les,
Yes.
I do have, not on the sequence number, I understand it, but while you're on that page,
Okay.
on the station numbers,
Yes, sir.
can we change that to take 9 places? Because it won't take but 8. And
So
if you got like a 100 plus 50.25, it won't accept it. It'll only take 8 characters.
So the way I understand it is it will take, I believe,
You can type it. Yeah.
So you're saying it would not take that?
No, anything over 8. If you go to your report and pull it up, it's gonna flag it.
Okay. I thought we worked on this. We worked on this a while back, and I thought that we came to the conclusion that it needed to be 4 places to the left of plus, 2 places on the right side of the plus. But then I thought that they added to where we could do 2 decimals. But you're saying because this is more than 8 characters.
Yeah. Right. I had to take the tenths and hundredths off the other day because it said it will not accept more than 8 places.
So I tell you what, I'll do some testing when I get off of the webinar here, I'm wondering if just the PDF report is giving you the rejection, but it actually might go over to site manager. And
I
if
don't know,
that's
but
the case, if
Yeah,
that's
if
the
you,
case, then they might just need to fix the PDF report.
if you
yeah, I
hit
was just
your,
about to ask that, Les, if it was on our end or if it was site manager who was not accepting.
No, this was your end. So
Yeah.
HeadLight has a restriction there of how many characters can go to the left and right and decimal places. We actually worked through this probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. I don't even remember who I was working with, but and we did get it kind of ironed out, but I have not checked it lately. So there's
if you go to that report, hit that date, I mean, you can see that it'll be red.
okay. Well, that's good because I'm actually going to do that on my next thing. So I actually wanted to talk about something along those lines, and then we'll take a look at it. It's a good idea. One thing that Phil and I noticed, and this is actually talking about the My Daily button. One of the things Phil and I noticed when we went and did our tour of District 62 training, like re-up training, is that hardly anybody there, if anybody at all, were using the My Daily to do their reports. They were actually, there's two ways you can do a report. And the first way, let me filter down to today. You can see I have a few observations here. So one way to do a report is to come and this works pretty much the same way on the iPad, is come select each individual observation that you would like to include in the report, right? Select all of these, go over to your spreadsheets, select all of your work items, select all of your contract personnel. So you have to go through each tab and even select your weather, right? And then you can create document, HDR report. You can create that for the day, and it will put, all of those things that you just selected into a report. If you dismiss that, go back to the journal. I'm just going to clear the filters out and go back so you can see how this works. And just check with your inspectors and make sure that everyone understands how this My Daily works. So instead of selecting each observation, if you go and hit this My Daily button here, it actually just compiles a report of everything that you did on that day. So it actually puts everything in there for you. It goes through each tab and selects everything that you did. And obviously you can still go in and unselect observations or remove them out of a report if you need to, but this is a much faster, much easier way to do a report. And then at that point you can you can submit that report. The thing to note there is that it only works on the day of, right? So if I were to go in and make observations today, which I did, if I tried to submit this report tomorrow, if I hit My Daily, it would only pull what was done tomorrow, not what I did today. So only on the day of the report. But just check with your people and make sure that they're using that, because it is much easier. And now that I have those reports in here, let's go check one of them out and see what it looks like for Jimmy. We'll download the PDF. My mouse here. Yes, so it does have, phone station has more than 8 characters. So I guess now we just need to figure out if this is a problem with the validation tool or if it is a problem with the report or the amount of characters itself. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna submit, and then I can go back in and check this later and see if it actually synced. I'll review it. It'll take a little while, so we won't be able to look at it on the webinar. Okay, any questions about My Daily? Okay, now I'm gonna stop share, and the very last thing I have, it looks like we might even get you out of here a little bit earlier, is on the last webinar, we discussed how to, actually, you know what, I probably will need to share again, but I'll wait just a second. So we got on the topic of measuring cores. And if you were supposed to measure if you all remember, if you're supposed to measure the core prior to trimming or after trimming and where that information goes or whatever. So I actually pulled up the QA, but and I'll show you that in a minute, but we're going to pretend this is a core. It's actually not an asphalt core. This is actually LWTs that someone made, but it's all I had at headquarters. And so one thing I want to show you is that when the contractor pulls that core out, before it is trimmed is when you measure it. And the QA manual says that you measure 3 spaces around the circumference. And that doesn't mean this way. It means like this. So I have a tape measure here that you would measure this to the 16th, turn it, 3 times, get 3 measurements, and then you average that measurement. So that is not done in the form, that's done outside the form. You actually average that, and I'm going to show you where those go now. I'll share my screen again. We'll look at the QA first. So this is the asphalt QA manual under section 502. So this is talking about getting the cores, making sure they're not damaged. The core sample's official thickness will be taken 3 measurements spaced uniformly around the circumference of the core before trimming and then averaged. The measurements will be taken and recorded to the nearest 1/16th. And it says how to measure. So this is what I was just showing. You measure to the 16th, measure before trimming. And then if you have multiple lifts, when they pull that core, you'll be able to see the line there, and you're actually measuring down to that line. Let me find, I had a form pulled up. And so what we're discussing here is this box right here, the thickness box. And as you can see, there's no place to put 3 measurements. So you're only going to put your average thickness here. You'll have to, you could actually go in maybe to the comments here and actually, put the measurement, the 3 measurements you got and where you averaged them. But we're talking about the thickness there. Just wanted to clear that up because it came up on the last meeting, and want to make sure that we're giving the right answers when we're talking about it on here. I do think it's still a great idea to enter the thickness measurement after it has been trimmed, but if you do that, you would have to put it in the comments. This thickness box is for the measurement, the average measurement to the 16th before trimming. So, all right, Phillip, that's all I had, unless somebody has questions about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Les, for giving us that information. Very helpful. So I know today was a lot that you guys received as far as demonstrations and knowledge. To keep count, I think we did 6. So we had 6 things that we actually gave you guys on today. We showed you 5 things: add and remove users, how to choose which projects you actually select to sync on your iPads. We also talked about selecting the correct plant and the steps in how you will be able to do that. We also went over the location sequence numbers and best practices for using the location sequence number. And then last but not least, we went over measuring cores, how to measure those cores and where to input that information inside of the form. So those were the 6 things that we went over today. Make sure that you guys go on the YouTube page. Like I said, it was a lot of information that was given on today. Go on the YouTube page, you'll be able to see those step by step. They should be available at some point throughout this week or on next week for you guys to be able to view. So just be on the lookout for them, okay? That YouTube page is going to be one of your friends, one of your best friends in regards to some of the new information that's out there and available to you, okay? I just want to go ahead and let you guys know, keep in mind that we do have the Q&A session, which is going to be on next Tuesday. Bring any and every question to that session. You do have a great group of people who are going to be on there to be able to assist you, where we have answers from across the board. We have Kevin Barbier, who specializes in materials. He's going to be available on that call. You have more than just me from the HeadLight team to be able to answer and provide you solutions, as well as give some insight that on some things that we might do for some other customers that could be beneficial and helpful to you. We also have Les, who's going to be on there, where he can assist as well when it comes down to any and everything from e-construction. So you have all of these people who are going to be available to you. We also have some others who might attend from both groups that could answer some of your questions. So make sure that you attend. Make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend to be on those calls. Okay, they're out there for you. And last but not least, the last Thursday of the month, we have the micro learning session. Okay, and that session is going to be devoted to teaching you guys proper search techniques. Okay. I want to emphasize that one because a lot of times when it comes down to cloning, when it comes down to finding information or answers to what's going on a project, or if you're looking at it and you want to be able to search something way down the line, 6-7 months, old, I want to show you guys how to properly do so, how to make it easier on yourself. It's quick naturally to be able to search with the search parameters that we have, but I'm going to show you guys how to really navigate that down to a matter of seconds to be able to find out what you need. Okay, so make sure you attend the micro learning session. Okay, but without further ado, I do want to go ahead and pass it over to the e-construction. There might be some information outside of HeadLight that they want to give to you guys, or something that might be coming down the pipeline. I do want to open it up to that group should they have anything that they would like to mention to everybody on the call right now. So Les, Patrick, Kevin, take it away. No, nothing.
Yes,
All right.
construction is going to be quiet today.
It's quiet. Okay, that's good. Let the tech do all of the talking is a better way to put it. So I don't think they have anything for you guys on today. Any parting words that you would have for the group, any motivation or information you would like to give to them?
Is it me?
Yeah, you.
I saw Kevin came off mute, so I thought maybe he was about to say something.
It's
Look, we appreciate you all kind of taking time out of your day to join us here, and please send us your feedback. Like if there's other things that you would like us to demonstrate on these webinars, send us ideas. Like don't just depend on us to come up with things every month. Like if you say, look, I want to get some of my inspectors on here. I have some new inspectors and we want to do 30 minutes of just basic field book training. We'll do it. Just let us know what you all need. We try to select things that are current. As you can see, most of the things we selected to go over today were just recent support cases that came in. But really, we really want and desire that feedback that you have, so we can give you the information that you need and make you want to come on these webinars. So,
yes,
that's all I have.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Les. I appreciate that. And feedback is very important. I do love the recent engagement that we are getting, but we want to double down on that, right? We want to make sure we are getting into a very heightened season as in regards to HeadLight and LADOTD relationship, and your feedback is going to save us much, much, much needed time in regards to where we put our efforts. And that's why it's important. That's why we drive it home, very strongly, is because we need to know from you guys. We don't want to just throw things out there that might not be beneficial, or you guys feel like it's not really helping you from a process and workflow standpoint. So make sure that you do get that to us in any way or manner, shape, or form that you feel is necessary to get that over to us. Okay. So I thank you guys for taking and carving out some of this time. Thank you once again. You guys have a nice one. All right. Take care.